Hi, I'm Patrick, and this is Stats with Pat. Today we're going to be talking about some of the most common functions that can be found in the dplyr package. The dplyr package is a phenomenal package that is used for data wrangling and data manipulation. So we're going to be going over 5 of those functions today. When you master those 5, you'll find them very helpful when manipulating data.
When I am doing anything that requires ggplot2 or the dplyr package, I just go ahead and load the whole tidyverse because it gives me all the functionality that I need. So I go ahead and load it. And today we're going to be working with the MT cars data. So I want to say data MT cars. Let's take a quick look at that. All right, I want to view it. So this is where we're looking at something that maybe is a little bit more familiar for those who like using Excel a lot. We have columns in Excel. They would be numbered, but here this specific data frame has the name of the car. And we have certain statistics or certain measures like miles per gallon, the number of cylinders, the displacement of the engine, the horsepower, and a few other things that I am not super confident in explaining. But we have information about particular models of cars. So this is the data that we're going to be working with. And let's say the first function that we're going to look at is miles per gallon. The first function we're going to be looking at is the select function. And the select function allows us to delete rows. So we have empty cars, but I want to create a data frame that only selects maybe a few of the rows. Right, so let's say I just want to get rid of miles per gallon. That's not something that is important to me. I would use this pipe function. I would start off by declaring a variable df1, so our first data frame that we're looking at. And MT cars is the data that we're going to be using. I'm going to create a pipe, and I'm going to use the select function. And I can do two things with the select function. I can list out all of the columns that I want to keep or that I want to select, or I can pick the specific columns and put a minus sign in front of them, the columns that I want to get rid of. So let's say I just want to get rid of miles per gallon. So now if I look at the head of df1, we can see the exact same data frame without the miles per gallon. So now we have a new data frame, and we have cylinders, displacement, horsepower, and it's all the same, except right here, we have miles per gallon has been removed. Now let's say I want to do something a little bit different. Maybe I want to reassign it, and I want miles per gallon, and I want the number of cylinders, and I want the displacement, and I want the horsepower, and I want the weight. Now I have a data frame that has just those columns selected. Now I can do the analysis. Instead of working with the entire data frame, I can just work with this much smaller data frame that's easier to visualize and a little bit easier to work with. There is one more thing that it is important to note. So let's say I like miles per gallon, cylinders, displacement, and horsepower, they're all right next to each other. So I can actually use a colon to do that whole set. So I want from miles per gallon to horsepower, and I want weight. It'll create the exact same thing right here. Instead of listing out all 4, I just say from miles per gallon to horsepower, and it'll go ahead and list those columns. All right, the next function that we're going to be looking at is the filter function, which select does columns, filter does rows. So let's just keep working with this data frame that we just created, df1. And I'm going to create a new data frame. It only has the specific rows that we want. So we'll use the filter function to get rid of the other ones. So df2 is going to be our new data frame. And we are going to be piping in the data frame 1, right? That's where we want to work with. And we will use the filter function. And I want to know filter, and I want the cylinders is going to be equal to 6. Or, so this will return a data frame that only has it equal to 6. So I want to look at the head, and I want to look at df2. As we can see right here, the only the only cars that are on my new data frame have 6 cylinders. But let's say I wanted to know for 2 different criteria. I also wanted to know 6 and 4. So let's go ahead and use this vertical line, or cylinder is equal to 4. So now it's going to return all of the rows that have either a 6 cylinders or 4 cylinders. So it's really just getting rid of 8 cylinder vehicles. Created it. Now, as you can see, we only have 6 and 4 in our new data frame. And that's the filter function. And just like we did this colon up here, there are a few different functions that you can use to say, I want to select this and I want to select this. So that's something that you might further look into in the future. It's a very dynamic function, so you can do quite a bit. All right, the next function we're going to look at is the mutate function. So the mutate function is adding a column, right? If we want to add a column, let's say I want to add a kilometers per liter column, and so that I can do analysis not just in miles per gallon, but also in kilometers. I will take my df2. I think I can keep working with this df2, just the cylinders of 6 and 4. So let's create a new data frame and call it df3, and it will have the kilometers per hour column in it. So we will create df2, that will be our pipe, and we will say mutate. And with mutate, we want kilometers per liter. Perfect. I still have it on my clipboard. So I have kilometers per liter is going to be the name of the column, and I want it to be equal to miles per gallon. And I just Googled the conversion, but I want to multiply the miles per gallon column by 0.425144. And that will give us this new column that converts that miles per gallon figure to the kilometers per liter measure. So we'll create it, and I want to look at the head just to make sure it worked correctly, and we'll do df3. Perfect. Right down here, we have the kilometers per liter, and we have it listed right here. But let's say I want it in the same format right here. What I could do is just use a simple round function. So I want to round, and when we use the round function, what happens is it basically just takes whatever is in the first argument, and then, I mean, you can do any arithmetic in there, or any, I want to say like any function in there, and you can indicate how many decimals it's being rounded to. So here, miles per gallon is rounded to 1. I want this one rounded to 1. Close parentheses on the mutate function. We'll recreate it. Now we have that exact same column, but now it is rounded to the first decimal place, to the tens decimal place to be a little bit more precise. Now we have 2 more functions to talk about, and these 2 particular functions are far-reaching, and they can do so much more than I am going to describe right here, but this might give you a better feel for what we're talking about. So we'll go back to working with our original MT cars, right? We're going to create a new data frame, but I want to use the group by function. That's what we're going to be working with. We're going to be using the group by function and the summarize function. So let's see, I just want to create data frame 4 is the number we're on. And we're going to be working with the original MT cars data. Now we're going to pipe in the group by function. And I want to group by, and this is just kind of what we've been going with, but I want to group by the number of cylinders. And what this will do is it will create an additional data frame, MT cars, but now there is a subset that we can't really see. I think it might be displayed if we look at the structure of it, but I want to see df4. Perfect. So we see right here, it's broken up. It creates this attribute. after using the structure function, we can take a look. It's a little bit different now. So we have this attribute, which is groups, and the groups are 4, 6, and 8. So it's the same data frame, but it has been split up, right? Everything is the same, but it has been split up into 3 different groups, and those are the 3 different types of cylinders. Now we use the summarize function. So I will be using the summarize function to find the average miles per gallon for the 4-cylinder cars, the 6-cylinder cars, and the 8-cylinder cars. And I will do that right here. So summarize, I want to use df4, and I want to group by the mean. And I think this is all it is. So the mean of miles per gallon. Now, as you can see, we have printed exactly what I just described. Now we have the average miles per gallon for the 4-cylinder cars, the average miles per gallon for the 6-cylinder cars, and the average miles per gallon for the 8-cylinder cars. So maybe we can go into greater detail with each of these functions in later videos. So please let me know if that's something you'd like to see. Thanks for watching. That's all I have for you.